So here we are on the 18th of November, and I'm Tamara Payne. We have a group of amazing ladies joining us today for how to care for ourselves. So before we get started in the learning, let's go ahead and rub our hands together like we're getting ready for something good, because we are. And taking 2 more breaths of this rub, rub, rub. And then I encourage everyone to hold the left foot, either physically or with intention, holding the left foot. Breathing energy and light into your left foot, from your heart and from your hands into that left foot. 2 more breaths there. And then brushing slowly up that left side body, either physically or with intention, up your left side. And we receive energy from earth up our left side, and we discharge anything that doesn't serve our highest good out of our right. So brushing down the right side of your body, down that right thigh, and then either physically or energetically with intention, holding on to your right foot. This is our drain. This is where we get rid of stuff, stagnancy that's ready to flow. And taking 2 more breaths there. Last one. And if your eyes were not closed or whatever, open them up nice and wide. And just tell me, did anybody feel anything from that little mini grounding technique?
I burped a lot.
That's Maureen speaking, and Maureen is our burper of the group when she is clearing stagnant energy. And she and I, when we work together, we let a lot go. Claire just wrote on the chat, I got a little shiver and I could feel the energy. Nice. Anybody else feel anything? Layla, can you take yourself off of mute?
Sorry.
Right.
My right big toe was like heavy and felt like it was draining. Like it was like I could feel stuff coming out of it.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah, really wild.
Yeah. And Sonia, anything for you? Take yourself off of mute for me.
Just a little warmth on my left foot when I first started.
Nice. And Sheila, Michelle, Mama Lucy, anything else?
Just a little pain. Just a little pain in my left leg. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, didn't you just have hip replacement not long ago, woman?
That too.
So yeah, it's
hard to hold those feet right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's okay to do it with intent.
I got this other chair.
Nice.
I have to put my foot up on that chair, then got it.
And Michelle, did you notice anything?
She might be talking, but she's off video. Like,
here she is.
Yeah, a little bit of I feel a little bit of energy in my left foot.
Interesting. And Mama Lucy, anything for you?
For me, I just feel more grounded because after last night, I was very, there was a lot of adrenaline going on. In fact, before the performance, I was having everybody do some yoga breaths because everybody was bouncing off the walls.
Are you a yoga teacher now too?
Yeah, I'm inherited.
It's in the blood.
I was trying to help them with Tai Chi, but they weren't going for that.
Well, I tell you what, now I do have a question for you all. And this question is, how come you take care of your pets and house plants?
We love them.
And how come you take care of yourself?
We should love ourselves.
That was a trick question.
I I didn't know how it was going to come out, Sheila.
It
So-
worked.
So really, how come so many of us, especially us as women, do not exactly have the best self-care? What do you think it is? What I really want to understand. We've learned to, Michelle types in the chat, we have learned to put ourselves, we have to learn how to put ourselves on our important list. That's a great point, Michelle. Anybody else?
Yeah.
How come we're not taking great care of ourselves all the time?
We are caregivers. And in
Uh,
our mind, we are caring for everyone else.
oh, so it's kind of that old adage that it's better to give than it is to receive, when in actuality, giving and receiving is the same coin, just two different sides. Can you imagine somebody saying heads is so much better than tails? I mean, it's so neutral energetically, but yet, Maureen, do you have something to add here?
Oh, I was just thinking, well, I was a child bride and a child mother. And when you start taking care of, little human beings at such a young age, you just automatically put yourself last. And then you forget, oh, I should be first once in a while. I think it's just becomes a bad habit. Putting yourself last instead of first,
Exactly. It is definitely a habit. Sonia, do you have some? Oh, Sonia, go ahead, and then Claire, please.
No, sorry, I was just scratching.
Oh, well, that's all right. That's all
No,
right.
but I was gonna say, yeah, there's no time left, right? By the time you're done taking care of others and doing what needs to be done, then there's not a heck of a lot of time left for,
Yeah,
you just keep going.
I agree. It sounds that way. And Claire, what would you like to contribute to your beautiful voice to this topic?
I think because in my world, I mean, I do have a partner but we kind of look after each other. I don't have kids, but I remember it's been a pattern for forever because I was always taught you have to do your work before you can relax. And for me, self-care, like meditating, journaling, yoga, a walk in the woods, it's pleasure. It's a pleasure that I cannot afford until I have done my work. And so for me, it's like where you have to work before you have to earn your rest. You have to earn your relaxation. And that's the thing is self-care looks like relaxation. It looks like pleasure. It looks like all of the things that I was told from a little girl, like, no, you can't do that now. You have to do your chores. You have to do your homework. You have to do your, whatever. So
Yes,
unfortunately.
I agree. It sounds, and Sonia posted in the chat, and the work is never done. But I want to address what Michelle has posted in the chat, and that is the focus on us as women, as adult women. I know that Layla it did not get raised like this because her mom's here, and I'm here with my mom who didn't raise me in this way. But we were supposed to be good little girls at all times. We were supposed to be good little girls, and then we grow up and we're still trying to perform. We're still trying to be good little girls, right? Well, usually it takes our bodies having some kind of huge major breakdown. And for me, it happened 19 years ago when I was 300 pounds. I'm 5'1". And so I was almost double the weight that I am now. And I was already embarking on marathoning. And a doctor told me, you're going to go on blood pressure medication for the rest of your life. And I said, that's not the way it's going to work for me. I mean, I have respect for physicians and their education, but a physician is not the god of me. No, and the physician is not the boss of me either. And I already I'd been to 30 physicians as a kid, and they didn't listen to me, and la, right? And so then cut forward to age 40, almost 41, and then I get diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast and liver cancer. So I've had many opportunities in my short physical age. I'm middle life, right? I've had many opportunities to say no to traditional medical and to say I'm going to become my own advocate. So back to the questions that I asked at the beginning of this is, how come we take care of a house plant and a pet is because we love them. They are, we are, they're helpless in a lot of ways because they don't have, opposable thumbs. So we must take care of them. Now, who's been on a plane and the steward, the flight attendants say, it's time to secure your own oxygen mask first in case of emergency, right? We've all seen that and heard that. And so that's how I look at it for us, as far as secure the own oxygen mask first and don't become a victim. Claire, as a professional diver, as a professional dive instructor, what's one of the first things you learn in rescue or you teach your students in rescue class?
I'm not an instructor, I'm assistant, I'm a dive master, but in any emergency situation, you always have to take care of yourself first. That's the only way you can ever help anybody else.
And so if we want a vehicle to be around for 25 or 30 years, an inanimate object, we take care of that vehicle. Yeah, a lot of times we name her, we put good fuel in it, we take it to a mechanic, we do all these things. Now, I don't know about you, but in this modern day, if I only live for 25 or 30 years, I wouldn't really consider that longevity. But yet we want our body temple, this physical aging animal to last 70, 80, 90, 100, 111 years. In my case, I have things to do in this human lifetime. I don't know. When God calls me home, Holy Spirit says, woman, go, I'll go. I'm going to fight it every tooth and nail in a lot of ways right now because I don't think I'm done. And so how are we going to do that? Well, the way that I've designed is a really cool, easy one-page owner's manual. And I'm going to put it into the chat for us so that we can all reach it and access it. If you can't access the chat, that's okay too. I will just post it here and see if everybody can get it and access it, mainly because I want us all to be able to have something as a guideline. So what I did first, and what I'd like you to begin to do on pen and paper, if you have it ready, is I'd like you to think about the roles that are important to you as a human being, as a woman, right? So for me, it's being a wife, being a stepmom, being a daughter, being a grandma, being a businesswoman, being, all those roles that are important. I just want you to at least write that down, that you think of as those roles that are you, mom, performer, Claire, performer, all the roles that matter. Just write them down. And I can truly interject and say that that's part of why I love men, is because they're really good about saying good enough. We as women tend to be a little bit more inquisitive and a little bit sometimes overly motivated about being perfectionists. Not all of us, but a lot of us, right? And so that word good enough doesn't really come to our mind very well, right? No. I'm finally okay with being a B student. I don't need to be an A+ student. Sonia, please interject.
Well, my daughter was, and my parents always pushed me, A plus, if it wasn't a 90 something, it wasn't good enough, right? So I swore I would never do that to my daughter, but she did it to herself. And
Right.
so I kept having to tell her, don't let excellent get in the way of good enough, because she was always striving for excellent, and it was too much, right? So in that case, I felt that good enough was good enough.
Yeah, I think that's a great motto. Mama Lucy did the same thing for me. My teachers would ask me as I'm working on being valedictorian of my junior high school, this is my identity and so important to me back then. It doesn't make any bit of difference now, but they would ask me, what happens, Tammy? They knew me as a kid as Tammy. What happens if you get a B? I said, nothing. I don't, I didn't get in trouble with it, especially with my mom. My stepdad might have been something else, but she didn't get after me about that. She said, as long as you're doing your best. She knew I was already self-driven. It sounds like, Sonia, like your daughter as well. And so, that's also a balance, right? Now that little girl inside of us is still inside of us, even if she's an adult, that we still have a 1-year-old who's learning to walk. We still have a 2-year-old who's learning to set boundaries. We still have a 3-year-old, a 5-year, we still have every age trying to integrate that. And Layla, like when you're raising littles, they say, the child psychologist, that if you're raising a 3 and a 5-year-old, for example, you're healing that age of yourself. And then grandparents are also, doing that same involvement, even if they have 6 decades more of experience, right? That they're still healing that age for themselves as they're interacting with that 3 and that 5-year-old. Right. So is there anything?
Oh God, it means I'm a teenager again, Tamara.
Yes,
all the great teenagers. Oh no.
And that's why you're such a fun grandma, Maureen, to the littles. And now here we are with all is everybody, all the grandkids now teenagers for you?
Oh yeah. 13 through 17, they're all in the teenage thing. Yep.
Wow. And see, we have all of ours are 11 and under. Well, tomorrow, 11 and under. So Aurora's 11th.
Still children. Still children. That's a good thing.
Still little. Yeah. So anything else anybody has questions or wants to interject or add to this? Okay, so we have
I just took me a second. Sorry, ladies, it took me a second to unmute. This is what I feel like all of us here on this conference call are. We are leaders of other women as well. Our family and our associates, our friends, because we are learning these techniques that we're getting ready to learn, and we can share those with others. So I think that's really an important role for all of us.
I agree. I'll add that to my list, but I already added it to my heart and my soul, because for me, it's sacred chakra development of 7 times 7. Last weekend, I turned 49, and I got to celebrate with one of the ladies here. I wish I could have had all of you here with us, because we would have had even more fun. But the neat thing is I only invited women who I know would speak about me to my face as if I was not in the room as well, and vice versa, right? Like, so, that's the really neat thing about that, me getting to have this sacred chakra age development, is that I feel like I'm working to become the teacher of the highest spiritual ideals. And no matter what age we are, we can always work to becoming that teacher of the master spiritual ideals. So not only are we now in this present moment healing our past and the collective past for our generations of families, we're also working into the future. We're working, it's hard to understand because we're in this human limited timeline where it's 2:30 in the afternoon, Central Time and Utila time, right? But the reality is that just because we do something now, we are really affecting a lot. How many of us then, for self-care, how many of us tend to model what we were taught by our moms and grandmas? Sheila.
Yeah.
For 10 minutes now, since you asked that question, why don't we take care of ourselves? I wanted to piggyback off of what Claire said, but even before that, I was thinking to myself, isn't self-care something we learn? For example, you're raised by pot-smoking, heroin-addicted father and a mother who's been physically abused. So how How did they teach me self-care? I say none.
And they were doing their best, people who are born in trauma just kind of keep those cycles going a lot of times. And so that's why it's so important for us to be here in this present moment, making a commitment to one another to say, I'm ready to take care of ourselves. I'm ready, because it may not have been modeled. Mama Lucy struggled with weight, and I remember seeing her go get horse urine, HCG supplements, and I remember seeing that fright for her, and all of that, watching that. I remember being at university and having all these pizza companies on speed dial, and she and I, last year, took a road trip from Pensacola, Florida down to Tampa, Florida, a long state, just like California was a long state where we grew up. Florida is a long state. And so here we were driving with our own meat, because both of us pretty much cannot digest carbohydrates. So we were laughing about the fact that we used to eat this cruddy food filled with chemicals, and now we really have to watch it and pay attention to those details a little differently. So isn't that funny? Right? Funny, haha, and also funny, interesting. So, we're all in this together. And so I am chemically sensitive, and most of us in this group are chemically sensitive, which means, there was 5 to 100 chemicals for most of us as kids. And now there's 185,000 chemicals out there, and not many of them have been human safety tested. What was that, Maureen?
I just said, my God, that's exponential. That's insane, the number. Wow.
Yeah. And Claire just put in the post in the chat, how cool that we could change, learn, and grow together. You're right. I mean, mom had me at 22, 23 years old. She was little, and so we raised each other in a lot of ways. And isn't that, that way for all of us, no matter what our physical age is, no matter if our moms are with us or not, it's a big deal. Michelle lost her mom very early in life. So she had her amazing grandma in a lot of ways to help, but I can't imagine that the word self-care was part of grandma's vernacular back then. No, exactly. It was take the crumbs, and it certainly wasn't the gluten-free good, because back then when I was a kid, we could eat 3 meals a day. We could have 2 desserts and we wouldn't gorge. We wouldn't, gain weight. We wouldn't any of those things, right? We could just kind of eat because there weren't chemicals in food, right? So it's very different for those of us who live in Central America, because they don't really have as many chemicals, right? Claire, have you noticed that? Sonia, have you noticed?
Oh, that there's not as many chemicals? My experience, honestly, has been that because I've been living in smaller towns, now it's different. I'm living in a big city and there are options for healthier food. It depends, because if you are talking about like tacos, it is super basic and it is super healthy. But when you go into the grocery store, there's just a whole lot of crap filled with sugar and chemicals on the shelves. That's been my experience. Here in Monterey, the grocery stores, I can actually find like organic, I can find alternative milks, like I can find oat milks and that kind of thing. Whereas it's a bit of a struggle if you're living in small towns around Mexico, like they have milk. You can find deslactosada como, like what is that called?
Without lactose.
Yeah, lactose free. You can find lactose free, but that's kind of it. And the rest, I mean, beans and rice, yes, but there's so much Coca-Cola instead of, my experience has been there's a lot of freely available chemical filled crap. You have to look for the healthy stuff, unless you're eating just from the food trucks, which really simple tacos and that kind of thing is very fresh, healthy vegetables, meat, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And Sonia, what about for you living here in Utah?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. It's a choice, right? We can go into the small grocery stores and find all kinds of crap, but the fresh fruit and the fresh vegetables are right there in your face. So it's easier to pick those than it is to, right?
That's very true.
being somewhere where, you know, it's nice and it's hot and it's warm, I have less need for comfort food, right? So I'm okay with the fresh salads and the, right?
Yeah.
So now I just need to teach my husband how to make them.
Oh, right,
He's all
exactly.
about the
Come on,
comfort
Mark.
food.
Come on, Mark. Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is that too, it's interesting because being in warmer weather, the need for comfort food does change, you know, just because we don't really have the seasonal changes like you do in the rest of North America. So that's very interesting. So who of us remembers Maslow's hierarchy of needs, unless of course you're looking at it from my owner's manual for myself, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs way back when Dr. Abraham Maslow was around in the 1940s or so in the United States, but he studied the ancient chakras. He just didn't really say it that way. He made it so that he kind of hid the information so it wasn't so scary. Eastern philosophies tend to be a little scary sometimes to Westerners. And so he was saying that, look, you know, from the basic sociological standpoint, air, food, water, safety, all those things need to be established. You know, a homeless person usually cannot grow up to be a CEO of a corporation just because they don't have their basics met, right? So for me, that is why I do my one-page owner's manual, right? If we are to go and buy a new moto or a new vehicle, or sometimes even a new computer or a new TV, we kind of get excited about reading the owner's manual as long as it's not, you know, several chapters. We kind of want to see, especially like the quick start guide where you just have to do 10 steps to get something running and operational, put the key in, turn it on. You know, we get kind of excited about an owner's manual and it doesn't seem like a chore. And so that's part of why years ago I created my owner's manual and I just updated it in order to send it to you all, right? And so I tend to be very goal oriented, which is very masculine, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then I also work to be very feminine. Well, 2022, anytime you have a number of a year that is a round number, so 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, the round number. So for 2022, I set up, I'm very feminine and I'm inviting in my feminine balance. And in that process, it was a crazy year. I gained 25 pounds. I lost $26,000 because somebody stole it. I mean, there was a lot of big things that happened in that year. Not all of it's bad. It's just interesting to observe. So as my overall affirmation for the year was that, so interesting. And now this year, here we are, 2 plus 2 plus 3 equals a 7. So it's an odd year, and that means it's a masculine year. So I, knowing that at the beginning of the year, I set up, I'm a great giver and a great receiver. All things are in equal balance. And I got a $20,000 grant that almost dollar for dollar equaled what got stolen from my business. I got that grant into my business almost right away at the beginning of the year from our amazing accountant who really is, she's so feminine and so wonderful and so graceful. So how interesting. So now moving into next year for 2024, I don't really want to do New Year's resolutions and get into all that, but 2024 is an 8. 2 plus 2 plus 4 is 8, and 8 is God's number of infinity. So ladies, abundance, baby, Claire wrote. That's right, right? So here's the deal, right? Why don't we affirm as a group that we're moving towards infinity and abundance for all of next year? Does that sound good? Yeah. So you can put that at your owner's manual if you'd like for 2024, you know, or just in general, whatever you want to do to move in the seasons. Because the reason why is because before we had modern technology and modern everything, women knew when to give birth, when to harvest, when we paid attention to the seasonal shifts and the shifts within the universe that we knew about. We paid attention to those details. We knew our moon cycles because we would bleed together. We would have our full moon or our new moon menstrual bleeds. And those of us who were elders would help take care of the youngers. And, you know, it would just be a really cool situation. So that's what this opportunity is for ourselves, to basically set up the basic air, food, water, safety for ourselves so that we can begin. Hey, Dan.
Hi, Dad.
And so talk about somebody who's in his energy balance between masculine and feminine. That's Dan. Yeah, big time.
Fact.
We're talking about you, mister.
I don't know if any of you had amazing dads, but mine was the best in the whole world.
Yeah. Yep. A veteran, a very proud cook and veteran. He was so smart. He made sure during Vietnam to get himself in the kitchen. That's smart. So I would like to encourage us each to take just a few minutes here to write down some owner's manual for ourselves as an individual. It doesn't have to be harsh or strict, of air, food, safety, movement, water, just some basic fives: air, food, water, safety, movement, please.
Nobody.
So I have just a question. These are basics for that like relate to the roles that are important to us.
Both. It's yes. How about that? It helps us be better in our roles, right? Be more involved and engaged. But really, most importantly, it helps us as if we're discovering an owner's manual for a plug and a play for a device that we want to last for 20 years, but instead we want our body temples to last.
So kind of, yeah, like what you've got here in your example of the, in order to be this role, you need your basic self-care is including these things. Okay, thanks.
Correct. Does that answer that for you, Claire?
Yeah, thank you.
So just taking maybe 2 more minutes or so. You can always come back to it, but we tend to do our work when we're together as a collective a little better, right? So was that easy for you to put it on pen and paper, Sonia?
Nope.
Are you hitting a block, a writer's block?
Yeah, I'm just I just found yours, so I'm the one that you posted there. So I'm just going through it now to see, to get a sense of what I'm supposed to be doing.
How do you need to take care of yourself? Air,
Mhm.
food, water, safety, movement. What are the 5 things of those that really work for your body?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the air. Whoa, sorry. Um, yeah, air. Is that like just breathing? Is that what we're?
And you always breathe deep into your abdomen, right?
Yeah. There's lots that I should be doing that I don't. Yeah, I
Well,
pant most of the time.
how
I
about
pant through my anxiety.
right? And how about invite it in? How about even if anxiety gets up above a level 5 out of 10, I remember to breathe into my abdomen. What if it's that basic? What if that's the only thing, right? Because Sheila, when Layla was little, when your littles, your grandkids, when we check them to make sure they're breathing into their abdomen, right? Same for all the rest of us who are biologic moms, right? You breathe, you're checking for abdominal breaths. So of course, when somebody's having anxiety, they're not breathing into their abdomen very much. Okay, let's wrap up there. And does anybody want to share? Maury, was that easy for you?
Pardon?
Was that easy? Or are you still working?
Oh, no, I have it filled out.
Uh-huh.
But I can't see, so I'm just making it up. Like, I don't have your diagram because my phone let me go to a picture. It's just my phone, you know? But I just wrote down all the words you said, and then I just filled out according to that, like what's important for self-care. Like when you talk about air and you talk about, you know, don't forget to breathe deep into your belly. But I also wrote, don't forget to go outside, you know, like don't forget to reattach with nature and fresh air, because outdoor air is completely different than indoor air for me anyway. You know, I can step outside and immediately, you know, calm, because and sometimes I think in this modern world we spend too much time indoors, you know.
Well, how many of us are in a bad mood in nature?
Exactly. And plus there's like, if you're stuck on something and you go outside, there's so many distractions that get you off being stuck. Because, you know, there's a bird, there's a squirrel, there's a bee, there's a butterfly, there's a cat, you know, there's so many things. So it gets you off that place of being stuck, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's really.
I think that's beautiful. And I do have a question for Mama Lucy for anxiety, and for Sonia for anxiety, anybody else who struggles. Have you ever, if you have an anxiety attack, is it indoors or outdoors?
Wow.
That's a good question. For me, it's usually indoors.
Oh, so wait a second here. We just solved kind of a huge deal, ladies, with the wisdom of us all together, is that we don't tend to have anxiety when we're outside in nature, breathing fresh air.
Using that logic, I shouldn't sleep because that's where mine comes. Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night with heart palpitations. So maybe I just shouldn't go to bed.
No, that's important to understand. That's very interesting. I had no idea. I don't
CPAP.
struggle.
She might need a CPAP
now. Yeah.
I don't have, I was tested. I don't have sleep apnea.
Good.
I wake up with thoughts and then I can't get back to sleep. And then I'm like, oh, I have to, oh, I forgot. Oh, I forgot. I have to.
So the hamster wheels grinding around in there. Yeah. Well,
have a notepad by your bed and write those down. When that happens, sweetheart, when you're sleeping and you wake up like that, have something right there handy. You write that down so that you can take it off of your mind and put it down on paper. Okay. Just a suggestion.
That's great, Mama Lucy. And Sonia's going to need you to learn at least an Italian song or two for her. I'm just suggesting.
I can do O Solo Mio right now.
Anybody like to share about Owner's Manual, some of the things that they came up with? Because we might find great ideas from it. Layla.
In the same anxiety light, I have found that eating a lot of omega-3 fatty acids can turn off an anxiety attack if I'm having it during the daytime. Like I have the same issue, Sonia, where like I won't be able to go to sleep. Well, I won't wake up in the middle of the night usually, but I will like have a hard time going to sleep. And I do what Mama Lucy says of just like writing it all down, and then it's not in my brain, it's somewhere else. As long as the house doesn't burn down, then we're good to go. It's somewhere else, not in my brain. But when I'm having anxiety in the day, sometimes I can't like turn it off because I still can see the things that are making me anxious. So yeah, I found it a few years back that if I went and got like some crackers with a can of like salmon and a whole avocado and ate the whole thing, I would feel way better within like 20 minutes. Really strange.
Okay.
I find food to be really grounding.
So food, first of all, eating is very, very grounding. Eating is very grounding, especially avocado, salmon. There's a lot of things that are very grounding. Somebody wrote something new in the chat, so let's see. Cool. Claire said, thank you. That's interesting. Michelle.
I don't want to interrupt people, so I'm just putting my little comments in the chat.
No. So anything anybody wanted to share before I close the recording? We don't have to close the chat or the meeting, but I want to make sure we honor time. Anybody want to share?
Yeah, I actually, for me, so I love this exercise. I'm gonna have to take a lot more time with it because it's taking me a bit to figure out what that means to me, like the self-care around some of these things, the roles that I have. I do want to say, like, your list is so specific. And I remember when you first sent it to me, I read it and I was like, oh my God, this is great. But then when I really started to read it, I was like, holy shit, how does she actually get all this fit it into her week? Like, it looks like all of these minutes that you allot to all of these different things. And for me, even just looking at it again now, it feels so overwhelming. It's like, oh God, I have to schedule all of my days to make sure that everything is balanced and I've got all of the things that I need. And I'm like, how do I do it?
To be like that. That's what works for me. I was born with an organizer in my hand. You can ask mom. I mean, I had things to do and that works out for me. So I do best if I put in for myself. I actually put myself into my calendar as if I'm a client for the things that I want to make sure I get done. That's works for me. Doesn't have to be that way for you. We're all so different. But
Well,
yeah,
I'm a big planner and I have, I've got my schedule, my organizer. But I guess I've done a similar exercise before, and it's something that it was a bit stressful because I realized that, for example, the amount of time that I need in nature, that I want in nature, or the time that I want to meditate or exercise or all of these things, it cuts into the time that I'm going to need for my work or for making dinners, like the regular errands around the house or whatever. And so it's like, well, I don't know how to best balance and manage that, like my needs versus just life, the stuff that you got to do in life, right?
I struggle with that a lot too, Claire. I had a therapist once tell me when I would say like, oh, I should do this. I need to do this to take care of myself. I need to like shave more often. I have to do that. Like all these like weird things. And they like, you turn out to be spinning about it. I had a therapist once tell me, she was like, is that self-care? Every time I would say something that I was like, I should do this. I should do this to take better care of myself. She would turn it back on me and she'd say, is that self-care to you? And it made me think like, I could actually simplify it a lot more. So I think it's so important to close your field of view when you're building something like this and think it doesn't matter what I think would be good for me because I'm hearing it from all these other places or seeing it around me. I really need to just look internally and be like, what can I do with a minute? What can I do with 2 minutes to take care of myself?
Going within. I'll bring up a really quick example for what happened last night. Mom went out to eat and we don't eat out very often, either one of us, for her being even more carbohydrate sensitive than I am. And she said, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to eat out and ask for her needs. And I said, Mom, I said, if I were there with you at the restaurant called McGuire's that I know and like and love there in Pensacola, Florida, is it embarrassing for you to watch me ask for what it is that I want? Because those of you here all have had interactions with me, and you know, Claire, that I have absolutely zero problem asking for what it is that I want and need. And we'll just take food as a perfect example, right? Why do you think my Spanish is so good? Is because I am easily able to say, solo me puedo, carne y mantequilla y huevos y frutas. Es solo, es muy, muy fácil. Solo 4 cosas. I only eat 4 things. It's so easy, right? And so I understand where maybe, the way I've designed it is that doesn't work for you. It's not as creative or whatever. But that for me is so joyful and so easy to say, I know I am a priority. I am a huge priority. I'm also semi-retired, right? So my amount of working hours I only do something that's fun for myself now. Fun retirement means my work is fun, right? Hey, buddy. So, I get it. And I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because I guarantee you, if you have that question, then somebody else here has that too, right?
Thank you. I love both of those points. What Layla said about just what can you do with a minute or two, I remembered hearing you tell Sonia, can you breathe into your belly? Right? Like, and I know for me, that is something that I need to do. So yeah, okay, that's self-care. That's a part of, like, it could be considered meditation, right? That's what meditation is, just awareness, right, of our breath.
Belly
And
breath.
so, what you're saying about making yourself a priority. The thing is, I feel like if only I didn't have to work, everything would be perfect. I would be so taken care of, and I would just be.
You know what? I used to think that too, and I'm down to working 5 hours per week, and I don't know where the time goes. I do not know.
Yeah.
That's something I struggle with, especially, I mean, we're truck drivers, so we may not move for 3 days, and then we're driving back-to-back shifts for 3 days from Massachusetts to California. And so like and I kind of had some health, not a health scare, but like a health, here's your sign moment back in July. And it really, I kind of had a freak out over it. And then I read some books on glucose management, and I kind of changed the way we eat now, not necessarily always what we eat, but just the order in which we eat. I've seen some success with that. And so I reordered a planner for next year, and I started kind of copying some important things from 23 over to my 24. And I just kind of just have a different outlook now. Like, instead of trying to cram it and make sure every single day, I've taken the pressure off myself a little bit. And now I look at it as, okay, healthy food. We bought another cooking appliance to try to keep on the truck. So my goal is to cook on the truck 3 or more meals per week on the truck, to walk 10 minutes or more per day. And try to take some of the stress off. I have to do it at all these other levels because I'm starting from scratch. So I need to make it achievable and possible, because otherwise I give up. I lose, like, well, crap, it's Tuesday. I haven't walked yet this week. Well, screw it. The whole week's off. So whatever.
Kind of an all or nothing, right, Michelle? And
yes,
we have to all understand Michelle is also a very well-trained coach. And so something she almost referred to, I heard it was SMART, and that's a coaching principle. You make it specific, right? You make it, gosh, take me back to manageable, attainable, results driven, and time driven.
bound.
Yeah, time bound as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do all that, but I think that's a great real world example for you.
Yeah.
I think that's
and what I noticed when you said, off the worksheet you uploaded was just basic needs, I started looking at it and I was like, holy cow, like, those are all my lists to do for me to focus on for 2024, to continue the healthy habits that I've really put importance on over the last 3 or 4 months, so I can keep having success towards my health goals. So that at the end of 2024, my health looks dramatically different than it did in July of this year. So
I think that's beautiful. And we all dream that with you, Michelle. We're all dreaming this life together. So we dream that for you and for Dave as well. That's the thing, is that this year I learned I cannot be in ketosis anymore. At age 48, 49, my body does not, my liver and my body will not let me be in ketosis. It is not the case. It was fine at age 40 and 41, was not an issue at all. And so that means 70% nutritional fat, the rest very low carbs, and the rest protein. This year, it is not that way. It is not that way at all. So my body does phenomenal with fruits. From here, I live in the Caribbean. So why not go outside and get a watermelon, right? And so, we're all in this ebb and flow of things shifting. And so great. Is there anything else anybody wants to share before I stop the recording?
I just want to go back to Layla's, when she was speaking about self-care, and she was saying, I should. For me, anything that comes out of my head that says I should, it's not self-care for me. If I feel like I have to, then I'm not. It has to be something I want to. And if it's a have to, it's another item on the list. If it's a want to, that's when I'm taking care of myself.
I
right?
agree. I just want to add finally, like, thank you, Michelle and Leila, and did really resonate with me as well. What Sonia said too, como.
Claro que sí.
But yeah, thank you. It's that is the way my brain works. It's like I have to do everything and perfectly all the time. And so to not should myself and to just, 10 minutes or more or this or more every week. If I can just do that, then I'm winning. That helps a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask for you to mute so I can close the call with this meditation 101. I'd like us to all close our eyes and invite in the following observation of ourselves. I invite in self-care. So hear my voice as if it is your own. I invite in self-care. I want to lovingly nurture and nourish myself. I enjoy pleasure. I enjoy caring for myself. I enjoy becoming a model of good behavior, of self-care for myself and for future generations. So breathe that in, smile as you feel that. One more breath together. Open your eyes, coming back to the present moment. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.